I love this pick, guys. I really do. Anytime the Steelers take a wide receiver, I'm buying in. What's up, guys? Brentley and Weissman here over at the Draft Network, and we are going to be doing a deep dive into the Pittsburgh Steelers 2022 NFL Draft Class. Now, the Steelers had an interesting offseason. Obviously, we know Big Ben Roethlisberger retired after nearly 2 decades as the Steelers quarterback, franchise quarterback, a guy with 2 Super Bowls. And so the Steelers were tasked to find his replacement. Let's see how they did it. With the first pick of the Steelers 2022 NFL Draft, coming in at number 20 overall, the Steelers selected the hometown hero, Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pittsburgh. Now, there was a ton of debate throughout the evaluation process about who's going to be QB1, which of these quarterbacks is going to hear their name in round 1, if any. Could some go in the top 10? And, when push came to shove, it ended up being Kenny Pickett staying home in Pittsburgh. He went a little later than I thought. I personally felt like Kenny Pickett throughout the process was getting a little bit disrespected. This is a guy who was phenomenal in 2021. I think he had nearly 40 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions, takes really good care of the football. He's accurate, a really good field processor, can throw the ball with anticipation, touch, and timing. And then really for me, he's an underrated athlete, which I thought he didn't get enough credit for with what he was able to do. Not only just kind of keeping plays alive with his legs, but also what he's able to do actually as a runner with the football and being able to pick up yards. I think Kenny Pickett is a home run pick for the Steelers, a guy that's going to be able to give them some stability at the quarterback position post Big Ben. Now, don't get me wrong, it's going to be interesting to see who's their starter in year 1 for Pickett, because the Steelers did go ahead and sign Mitchell Trubisky, former first-round pick for the Chicago Bears, in free agency to kind of be another just competitor in this quarterback competition, and that's exactly what I think it's going to be. I do not think Pickett is going to be gifted the job by any means, even though he's the first quarterback taken. I think he, Trubisky, and even Mason Rudolph will be competing for the job of QB1. But when all is said and done, I do anticipate Kenny Pickett being the week 1 starter. I simply think he's a better player than Trubisky and Mason Rudolph, and I think he gives the Steelers the best chance to be productive on offense. With their next pick, the Steelers keep it on the offensive side of the ball. Here in the second round, pick number 52, wide receiver George Pickens out of Georgia. I love this pick, guys. I really do. Anytime the Steelers take a wide receiver, I'm buying in. This is easily the best team at taking receivers. You think about what they've been able to do here in the rounds 2 and rounds 3 over the years. Juju Smith, Martavis Bryant, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, all home runs. I think George Pickens is next in line. You guys got to remember, had George Pickens not torn his ACL last spring heading into his junior season, he very likely would have been a high first-round pick. This is a guy who's a physical specimen, over 6'3", 200 pounds, ran a verified 4.4 at the combine, and a player who just plays with toughness and physicality outside at receiver. He's a monster in 50-50 situations, really good after the catch, outstanding ball skills, and he might have had the best hands in this entire draft. Now, the Steelers, they still have Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. They did lose Juju Smith to free agency. They also lost Ray McLeod and also lost James Washington. So there is a role here for George Pickens to make a year 1 impact. Look for him to start in 3 wide receiver sets outside, allowing Deontay Johnson to play more in the slot. I think George Pickens has a chance to really have a strong year 1 impact. But really, when you think about George Pickens, look for him in year 2 and year 3. Don't be surprised if he's the Steelers' number 1 receiver down the road. Next pick here, coming at round 3 for the Steelers at 84th overall, DEMARVIN LEAL, defensive lineman, Texas A&M. Another home run pick to me for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Leal is a guy who I got to watch very early on in the process, going back all the way to this time last year in summer scouting, and I graded him as a top 10 pick. The flashes that we saw for him as a sophomore at an A&M was really, really intriguing. He had a really good blend of size, power, explosiveness, an ability to play up and down the defensive line. You saw him rushing off the edge. You saw him winning inside. You saw him do a lot of high-level stuff as a rusher that got a lot of evaluators really excited. The issue is for LEAL, unfortunately for him during his junior season, he just didn't play with any sort of level of consistency down to down. He still showed some of those kind of high-end flashes as a rusher, but man, his ability in the run game was not great. He wasn't good at the point of attack. He consistently got washed against double teams and was quite frankly just a liability as a run defender. And because of that, you don't feel great about him being a 3-down starter. Now that being said, the physical tools are there for LEAL. If I'm betting on his upside, I think the Steelers got a home run value in the 3rd round. And I will say this, if there's any team that I feel can really maximize and bring out LEAL's potential, it's the Steelers. It's Mike Tomlin. It's this overall infrastructure of this organization. And so I love this pick for LEAL. Stephon Tuitt retired recently. I do see a path to early down playing time for him. He has some competition ahead of him, Chris Wormley and Isaiah Loudermilk. But this is a guy who has very high-end upside, a guy I think can make a lot of success playing next to Cam Heyward. I love this pick, and I love this team player pairing. Next pick here, coming in round 4, pick number 138, another receiver, Calvin Austin III out of Memphis. So, two receivers, but two very, very different players. Where George Pickens is 6'3", 200, you come more of your prototypical X. Calvin Austin is the opposite. He's your 5'9" slot receiver who runs a blazing 4.3 40. As I mentioned, the Steelers lost Ray McLeod, and that's exactly who I think Austin is replacing. Calvin Austin is going to be a menace in the slot, outstanding stop-start ability, really good route runner. And what I really like about Calvin Austin is he is so physical with the ball in his hands. He bounces off tackles, really good after the catch, can make you miss. And also, he has good ball skills for a smaller frame receiver. You see him extend and make catches outside of his frame down the field, in which, for a smaller receiver, you don't necessarily see that often. I don't know what his year-end impact is going to be. So as I mentioned, the team still returns Deontay Johnson. They have Chase Claypool. I do think George Pickens will be ahead of him in the totem pole. But I do see a world where he makes a significant impact returning kicks and returning punts somewhere where he was phenomenal at Memphis. And so I think he will make his impact on special teams. But then in year 2 and year 3, look for him to make a big impact on offense and make a living in the slot. Next pick, and I love this pick here in round number 6, number 208 overall, Connor Heyward, fullback / tight end out of Michigan State. And yes, this is the brother of Cam Heyward, current Pittsburgh Steeler. So fun fact, now this gives the Steelers 3 brother pairings, as they already have TJ and Derek Watt, they have Trey and Terrell Edmonds, and now they add Connor Heyward to go with Cam Heyward. Now, Connor Heyward is a pretty unique player. He spent some time at Michigan State being a running back, being a tight end, and he did both pretty well. I think he's probably best more in that pass-catching role as more of like an H-back for a tight end. Not the best blocker in the world, not the most athletic, but he's just an overall football player. And I think the Steelers are going to be able to find a role with him on their offense and more of that kind of Swiss Army knife. Whether he's the fullback, whether he's the H-back, whether he's kind of third tight end, I do think there's enough here where the Steelers will be able to use him on the field, and he'll have a chance to make this roster. Next pick here for the Steelers comes in round number 7, pick 255, linebacker Mark Robinson out of Ole Miss. Now, Robinson, a former running back, is an athletic linebacker, can play sideline to sideline. He's a little undersized, still some work to do in terms of his hand use, his technique, being able to stack and shed. But I like the athleticism here in round 7. I think he's probably destined for the practice squad, but he's a guy who could make the roster if he's outstanding in special teams during the preseason. And lastly for the Steelers, their last pick here for the 2022 NFL Draft, quarterback, if you can believe it, yes, another quarterback, Chris Oladokun, quarterback out of South Dakota State. Now, unlike Kenny Pickett, I don't think Olodokun will be a factor here in this quarterback competition. This is a guy who's extremely raw, but very, very athletic with high physical tools, high upside. I like the idea of taking a swing here in round number 7. He's destined for the practice squad, but at worst case, you cut him. Best case, he develops into a long-term backup or potential trade chip in future years. That'll do it for the Pittsburgh Steelers 2022 NFL Draft Class. Let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Draft Network on YouTube for more NFL and NFL Draft content.